Russia now claims to control 97% of one of the two provinces that make up the region in the east of the country. And it says its forces have taken full control of residential areas in that key city of Severodonetsk. That's where we have had reports of troops fighting street by street. Ukraine admitting its forces now are outnumbered, but it says ceding territory to Russia is not an option.
Inflicting maximum damage. That is the goal for Moscow, which released this footage of its howitzers at work. Across Ukraine's east, the destruction is evident. Many of those who remain have lost everything. I do not even know where to start. I am standing here and looking, but I have no idea what to do. I start crying, I calm down, then I cry again and again. The focus now is on the city of Severodonetsk, which could be key to gain control of the Donbass. Ukraine says its troops are outnumbered but holding strong.
Our heroes are not giving up their positions in Sievierodonetsk. Fierce street fights continue in the city. The Russian army is trying to deploy additional forces in the Donbas direction. But it's the 103rd day, and the Ukrainian Donbas stands. It stands firmly.
The cost of that resistance has been high. Even as Russia threatens dire consequences to more help from the West, Ukraine says that for its embattled troops, more weapons could be the difference between life and death.
And now to those fears of a growing global food crisis. Millions of tons of grain are piling up in southern Ukraine, going nowhere because the war has blocked ships from leaving ports. Well, today, addressing the UN Security Council in New York, European Council President Charles Michel, he put the blame squarely on Russia. Take a listen.
Russia is solely responsible for this food crisis, Russia alone, despite the Kremlin's campaign of lies and disinformation. I've seen it with my own eyes a few weeks ago in Odesa. Millions of tons of grain and wheat stuck in containers and ships because of Russian warships in the Black Sea and because of Russia's attack on transport infrastructure. And it is Russian tanks, Russian bombs and mines that are preventing Ukraine from planting and harvesting. The Kremlin is also targeting grain storages and stealing grain in Ukraine while shifting the blame on others. This is cowardly, this is propaganda, pure and simple propaganda.
All right, let's go now to our correspondent, Nick Connolly. He is in Odesa in Ukraine for us tonight. Nick, it's good to see you. We just heard right there scathing criticism from the European Council president, blaming Russia for this looming global food crisis. Russia says it's not responsible. It's blaming Ukraine, saying the Ukrainian military needs to demine the waters around its Black Sea ports before any ships can leave. Is there any solution to this obvious impasse in sight?
I think there's a lot of diplomatic noise going on right now. There's a meeting tomorrow in Turkey between ministers from Russia and Turkey with the UN on board and the Ukrainians somehow involved. We don't quite know how. But I think this is more about the blame game right now. This is not about real solutions. Otherwise, Russia would not have destroyed Ukraine's second biggest grain terminal just a few days ago in the city of Mykolaiv, about 150 kilometers down the road from where I am now. The infrastructure on the ground that could really then let that food out in a hurry to the people who need it in North Africa and the Middle East, that is being destroyed bit by the Russians, who are also obviously making it very hard for Ukrainian farmers to get the diesel they need. They've been bombing oil refineries, bombing oil storage units and roads. And I think now that Russia is just noticing that this is a topic that is getting a lot of traction internationally, also in countries in Africa and the Middle East that traditionally are a lot more sympathetic to Russian narratives than is the case in Europe and North America. And seeing that concern, they're now trying to place the game on Ukraine that has very little reason to trust Russian guarantees that if it takes the mines away from Odesa's coastline that are protecting Odesa from Russian operations right now, that will be respected and that it won't be used by Russia to come here to Odessa and invade the city.
I want to talk about where you are right now, Nick, Odessa. We know that that city was the target of heavy Russian attacks in the early days of this war. What's it like there now?
Well, it's kind of schizophrenic feeling. On one hand, you have people out in bars and restaurants late into the night. The curfew has been pushed back till 11 p.m., but those are mainly locals. And this is a city that, apart from its port, lives from tourism, and those tourists are obviously nowhere to be seen. Foreign tourists, even less so, but even people inside Ukraine, in the fourth month of war, their savings are running low and they can't think about affording a holiday. So you really notice that people's, basically their reserves, their savings are running low. The people are trying to kind of get to some kind of normality to enjoy this summer, but that they are nervous, that they can't really let go because they don't know what's coming. They don't know if they'll be able to earn a living. And that is a problem that is facing Ukraine now, even in parts of the country that are safe from Russian attacks. People don't know if their jobs will still be there in a week or a month's time, and whether they might have to soon leave for economic reasons rather than security ones.
And Nick, there are some worrying reports tonight coming out talking about another key port city, the city of Mariupol, which is now controlled by Russian forces. What can you tell us?
Well, we've seen reports in Ukrainian media about cholera being discovered among people living in Mariupol. Those are as yet unconfirmed reports. We've similarly had reports in the same independent Russian media that some of the border regions of Russia close to Mariupol are now preparing infectious diseases wards for people coming from there. One thing is certain, Mariupol is a city of ruins. People there have very little access to sanitation. The occasional water truck going around, but we've seen people washing themselves and their clothes in the sea. Obviously, lots of bodies still unrecovered. So it's a very dangerous situation. As summer and summer temperatures come in, I think the risk of disease and people suffering in the ruins of that city is just going to grow.
Yeah, the summer heat is only going to make things worse, that's for sure. Nick Connolly reporting tonight from Odessa. Nick, as always, thank you. Well, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, he says that his government is ready to boost its military mission in Lithuania. On a visit today to Vilnius, he also met with the leaders of the other two Baltic countries, Latvia and Estonia. Given their proximity to Russia, they've been calling for increased NATO support to deter and defend against any aggression from Moscow.
Cooperation. This is what German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and Lithuanian President Gitanas Nausėda wanted to convey. The two announced preparations for an expansion of the multinational NATO combat unit currently stationed in Lithuania, and Olaf Scholz was keen to shut down criticism regarding Germany's support to Ukraine.
We will continue supporting Ukraine with weapons deliveries. Germany has been doing this more intensely than almost anybody else and will continue its support in the near term, as long as will be needed to rebuff Russian aggression.
But words are not enough for both Ukraine and NATO allies, which pressed Berlin to step up its military support, with the Baltic heads of state stressing their determination to stop Russia's aggression against Ukraine.
I believe that our colleagues always have the right to try all the options they want to try. But this is not Lithuania's position. We think it is difficult to talk to a head of state who is redrawing the borders in the 21st century.
Tuesday's meeting was intended to show unity among NATO allies. But Germany's support will likely be judged by the weapons and boots on the ground it actually provides, both to Ukraine and to its NATO allies.